What's up, y'all? It's DJ Gary, and we back. I kind of want to address this topic because this has been kind of like a running thing in the hip hop community with fan bases, particularly hip hop fan bases, Tupac fans, right? So I wanted to address this because I feel like a lot of people is trying to create a narrative that Tupac and Ice Cube was beefing. Like that's the narrative that these Tupac fan base want to paint when it's not really that. It's just more like a big brother, little brother uh, situation or whatever, right? Because at this point, um, Ice Cube, phenomenal rapper, phenomenal actor, businessman. Ice Cube really transcend what it was to be from, South Central LA. Shout to South Central LA. You know, uh, and Ice Cube really held it down for the West Coast, and he's still holding it down. He's one of the smartest rappers and pioneers in the game. So one of the narratives that I want to address is the Tupac fan base is trying to say that Yo-Yo and Ice Cube was having relations. And I'm just like, and they say that's one of the reasons why Ice Cube did not approve Yo-Yo for uh, the original Dear Mama track. Now I have to say, and they say like because Ice Cube was mad that Tupac was smashing Yo-Yo and Ice Cube was smashing her, and because of this, because Tupac got so close to Yo-Yo, Ice Cube didn't like that. I'm here to say that's not even truth. And be careful with that narrative because people nowadays they looking at your hats on Twitter and X and IG accounts, and people are throwing lawsuits like no other, right? So number one, this wouldn't make any sense. Yo-Yo was not only dating Tupac, but she was dating Tupac, but let's not forget Yo-Yo also, had other options out there. So I don't believe in a form of fashion that Ice Cube would be um, upset at this because he's Ice Cube. He has his own career. He put her in the business. He helped write her album. He helped get her career started. Yo-Yo's from Washington Prep, same school my mom's went to. Uh, so um, I think that it's a very stupid narrative, and the original Dear Mama was not supposed to feature Yo-Yo. That's a lie. I don't know why people are saying that. That's so far from the truth. Was there supposed to be like a scratch, like a little DJ scratch up in there from the song It's a Man's World? Yeah, but I don't. It was not going to say "Dear Mama" featuring Yo-Yo like that. That was not going to be on the agenda list. Um, Now some say Ice Cube was jealous of Tupac. I don't believe that. I do not believe that, not one bit, because Ice Cube was miles ahead of what Tupac was doing. You know, Ice Cube was really, he laid the groundwork. You know, nothing came to him easy in the beginning. He started off as a ghostwriter. Before like really getting into business. He was one of the first guys who had a recording contract at like 16 years old before NWA. And that's a very stupid narrative to say, because Ice Cube didn't clear the sample. But now we're hearing Pat Charbonnet really was the one who didn't approve the sample. And that was Pat Charbonnet. I think she was Ice Cube business partner. She helped get Friday off the ground. She was also the head of Street Knowledge Productions, if I recall. So um, that was her. That was her thing. You know, you guys will have to ask Pat Charbonnet. Maybe she didn't think it was necessary. That little bit. Because at that time, remember also James Brown. Um, it's a sample. It's a James Brown sample. So you know how that works. But Tupac sampled over 20 something records of Ice Cube on like his on like what his first second album. Tupac just sampled crazy Ice Cube records, even the unreleased songs that end up coming out on Are You Still Down. He sampled Cube discography basically at that point. Ice Cube and Tupac was cool. There was no static. If anything, Ice Cube co-signed Tupac. Ice Cube appeared on the album Strictly for My Ninjas. He didn't have to do that, and that's the same album Pop continued sampling even after getting Ice Cube feature. He's still sampling Ice Cube. And y'all have to remember Ice Cube met Tupac during Digital Underground. So they already kind of was like had this little rapport. Tupac used to say to Cube, like, hey, I want to make the records that y'all be making. Where my city at, it's effed up. We need to, give me some advice, whatever. So Tupac and Ice Cube was always hanging together. Even when Tupac didn't have a career, he was just dancing at that point. And, you know, was it, I'm quite sure everybody has competition. That's natural. Everybody has competition. Father and sons sometimes have competition. Sometimes mothers and daughters have competition. Sometimes, siblings have competition. But people try to make like Ice Cube hated Tupac and Tupac hated Ice Cube. I don't believe that, not one bit. And I also want to touch on the West Side thing because there's a lot of debate on people trying to say, well, Ice Cube jumped on the bandwagon hating the East Coast when Tupac dropped him up. A lot of people probably don't remember, or a lot of people don't care to do research, but DJ Gary is going to bring you some facts, right? So we're going to take you to How We Do It. This is off of Lethal and Ejection. Let's look at the lyrics. He says, you know how we do it, West Side, coming from the West Side, nothing but the West Side. Now, Ice Cube might be one of the first people in 1993 to mention anything about West Side. Okay, you go to Tupac's first and second, third, fourth projects, he says nothing about the West Side. Let's go to 1993. We still in 1993. This is off of Eric Sermon's solo album, and this is a song called The Ilsh, and this is featuring Cam. Shout out to Cam. He's on the internet and whatnot, doing his thing. So let's look at the lyrics, right? This is Ice Cube. Go pull up the song. I can't play it here due to copyright. Well, here I go again, throwing up the W. Ice Cube, I'm down with E double crew, pulling up in my homie's black 6'4", hitting switches, but mine's a convertible. Mash to the West Side, right? Still got a deuce, whatever. I can't say the other. And then he says, at the end of it, he says, cross him out and put a K. I just want to point out cross him out, put a K, because he ended up putting that on the Westside Connection album. He actually made a song out of that. And then I want to pull up The Enemy from Lethal and Ejection. This is 1993. We're going to check this out. So, the enemy is a very like blackety black song and whatnot. So I'm not going to read these lyrics because it's very this channel could easily get deleted. But I want to point out this is verse 3 of The Enemy. He says, "Now I change my style up, bodies pile up just to trouble you, throwing out the W." So as you see, Ice Cube is mentioning the W. This is 1993. Tupac is on his Strictly for My Ninja era. So we're going to go to 1994. I think this is like 1994. But it says August 14th, 1995. Oops. Let me see. Let me go back. Sorry about that. Hold on 1 second. Had a little malfunction. We're gonna get to it. Okay. So let's check this out. This is on WC and the Mass Circle album. And this is basically Westside Connection when they're first, one of their first get together songs. This has August 14th, 1995. So I fast forward. This is 1995. Now, what I want to point out, August 1995, Tupac is in Clinton Correctional Facility. He is the guy on there for, the charges he was charged with. And I don't think he signed the contract yet with Death Row. But anyway, let's get to it. Intro, of course, WC, we're Mania, throwing up the W. That's Ice Cube 2 times. So clear the lane. Here I come again. Dropping. So this WC verse. Who ride us? I got a Westsider. Rhymer. Because Ice Cube, Mac 10, Dub C back up in this straight hipster for life. Ain't no looking back. Ink in my flesh. Westside tattoo on my chest. Right? So, and then at the end he says, West Coast till the casket drop, I'll be throwing it up. So what's up? So Dub C coming out with it, right? At the end, so we go into Mac 10 verse. You might need your Loke song to build through. It's FN URN with Mac 10, and I gotta confess up. This ninja, this West Up fly. So let's go to Ice Cube. So he says, now I got to show you how the West Coast rocks. No razor blades in my mouth, just a Glock. I'm hitting you up with that WS. The sun rises in the east, but it sets in the west. No gold teeth, you get red. So hand me my goodies, stocking mask, no hoodies. So he's taking a shot at the East Coast because Mr. Ace is throwing stuff out. Jaruda Damager is throwing stuff out, and so I'm gonna get through these lyrics. Then he says, but when you he said, in the East, we can be brothers, but when you come to LA, watch your MFN colors. West up ninja. So we see that, right? Now, I'm going to go to a different, I'm going to go to the Predator lyrics. This is 1992. There's no stopping. Let me see. Okay, let's get to the verse. You can run, but you can't hide from the West Side. Night Stalker, S Talker, right? So this is 92. This is December of 92. He's mentioning Westside. So now that's when he's mentioning Westside. This is when Tupac was basically doing his first album. His first album, I think, had just dropped or something like that. So in a lot of ways, Tupac is just, you know, I know I bounced back. Now let's go back to 95. We're gonna go back to 95, right? This is Tupac in 96, but we're gonna go back to 95. So let's go to these lyrics. So this is this was on Mac 10 album. It was called Westside Slaughterhouse. So this is 1995. This is the summer of 1995. I think this is June. This is like when Mac 10 album first came out. So Tupac is still in jail, in prison at this point. So, you know, of course, they have the common disc. There's a Mr. Ace disc. It's all in here. I could break it down, but I could break down another video. So, you know, Ice Cube is basically saying, well, you know, he's saying it's the dog breathing out the smoke. I'm a hawk of this gangster ish down the click. All you suckers want this the Pacific, but never get specific. So he's dissing Common, and then he says Ice Cube billing through the East without a vest. So he's basically saying the East Coast could diss. He's saying all these guys in the East Coast is throwing these shots because at the time, Tribe Called Quest. Everybody was dissing the West Coast or throwing shots. And so nobody really wasn't out front with, with responding back. So Ice Cube took it upon himself to do it. Okay. So here he is. He's saying, do I walk by, watch everybody die? Ninjas into gangs, things, narcotics, freak, riches, hydraulics, pull heat, knock you off the feet, clear the whole block, both sides of the street, even Crips and Bloods, hear my thugs, free five on the phone. Hey, where you from? Westside. So, man, I could read this all day because I really like this song. But and also Ice Cube's song Friday. He mentioned he throws up the West Side in the Friday music video. I can't play it like I said because due to copyright reasons. Go to the Friday song. In fact, I'm gonna go to the lyrics to the Friday song. He says right here, throw the West Side in the air, throw the East Side in there, throw the South Side in there, throw the North Side in there. Now, to be fair, also, this came from the soundtrack Friday. Friday music video. Friday, the movie was released April of 1995. By that year, Tupac was in prison. I think Tupac was in. I think he was in Rikers or something. So Tupac could not rep anything West Side or, anything West Coast. Now, like I said, Tupac, if you go to Tupac albums, especially his third album, he says, it's your friend from Oakland. So it's like, Tupac wasn't repping West Side, West Coast really until he went to Clinton Correctional Facility. Even then, everybody is unaware of what's going on with Tupac. So you'll see pictures of him throwing out West Side. But this is after the whole thing. So by the time, Ice Cube is doing this, he throwing up the West Side, throwing up the W, all that, right? So by the time Tupac get out of prison, he's the most, controversial guy. He releases All Eyes on Me. He's throwing up the W. That was released February of 96. So people that are like, oh, whoa, Tupac, he threw up the W. He threw up the W. And so people associate the W with Tupac. When, Ice Cube was really doing it before Tupac. And so as time moved on, by the time Ice Cube By the time June '96 come, I believe, or no, it's I think August. But don't forget, there's a sample where they sample Ice Cube on Eyes on Me, Can't See Me. When Flav Flav was like, check this out, stay off his. So they sampled, um, they sampled Ice Cube. They got clearance for that. And so people want there to be the rivalry, or not the rivalry, but the hate train, right? Right, because there's nothing really left to talk about, right? Besides the beefs that Tupac had. So when Bow Down comes out, at this point, Tupac is paranoid. You know, Tupac is like constantly paranoid. Oh, blah blah blah, trying to diss, and da da da, trying to diss. So Tupac is in the studio. He's making these songs, dissing people, and end up leaking after he died. So Tupac, was on the radio. People say it was Sway in the morning. It wasn't Sway in the morning. That wouldn't, no. Tupac was talking to a different radio station guy. It wasn't Sway in the morning. But Tupac was saying, oh, just like Ice Cube just dropped something called Bow Down. Why was he making them bow down when I was in jail? And blah blah blah. And this W, he can't have it. If he come back, that'll make me obsolete. He can't have it. So that was like August of '96. Bow Down drops, and Tupac is like, you could tell, he heard him up and said, this side goes. And Ice Cube using us as gas to beef. Nah, that wasn't even the thing. As I just showed y'all the timeline, Ice Cube and them was already beefing with the East Coast. That's what was happening. Tupac just came and drove a bulldozer over it, and it blew up. And so because it blew up, everybody was like, well, Tupac did it first. Tupac did it first. Tupac believed in his mind that he was really the one who really was out here doing the do, right? Tupac was a legend in his own right. Ice Cube was a legend in his own right. The thing about Tupac was Tupac exaggerated a lot. Now we could say the Westside. We could say for Tupac could have been using that to gangbang, right? Because he at this point was basically, so Tupac at this time was basically insinuating anything was a diss. But my thing is, if Tupac felt this way, wouldn't there be a diss track that Tupac made about Ice Cube, wouldn't that have leaked already? These Tupac fans want to insinuate a narrative, but there's really nothing concrete to go on. You know, we could, like I was trying to make a point, we could say Tupac was throwing up the W because, he started hanging with Ma Pyru, the Westside Pyrus in Compton. We could say that. We could say that Tupac's Westside was for gangbanging purposes because after a while, Tupac got caught up in gangbanging. And Tupac, just like when Tupac got the MOB tattoo, he was asked, what does that mean? And he was like, he said it was something else. But everybody close knew exactly what it was about and what it was insinuating. Now, I think Tupac definitely was passionate about the West Coast, but remember, like I said, where he come from, New York, Harlem, Baltimore, Oakland. Tupac had always said Oakland was his place. Now, Ice Cube, people say, Tupac stole. No, they said Ice Cube stole Tupac sayings or whatever. He was jealous. He was this and all that. Ice Cube was smashing Yo-Yo. First of all, Ice Cube was married to his wife, his wife Kim. So be careful when you make salacious claims because, people really take that to heart. You messing with people's reputation. And, he been married to his wife, Kim, for almost 40 years or so. And I think people should really be careful because people is lurking on these internets. But yeah, I believe Tupac, Ice Cube never had beef. I totally believe they never had beef. That's just a made up mythical Tupac fan base. They trying to put a narrative together, but it just doesn't work. That, for me, it just doesn't sound right. It nothing about it sound right. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know, did I bring something new to the perspective? Did I enlighten y'all on some things? And also, eventually, the Westside Connection album comes out after Tupac passes away. Phenomenal album, I might add. And also, to be real about big respects to Ice Cube. Ice Cube was a businessman, entrepreneur. Where he from? He really, a family man. and he does what he do. Like this video, comment, subscribe. DJ Gary, I'm out.